There is a time in life when even the strongest soul feels confused. When the body is alive, but the fire of desire is silent. You look around and see others burning in passion, while your own flame stays still. And in that silence you ask, why has God starved me of this desire? Maybe it is not punishment. Maybe it is protection. When a person is denied what the world calls pleasure, something else begins to grow inside. A deeper form of strength. A discipline that no comfort can teach. You start to see what others cannot see because they are too distracted by their hunger. When God takes something away, He does not do it to break you. He does it to build your inner temple. To separate your purpose from your pleasure. To make your mind stronger than your impulses. The ones who carry heavy silence inside them are often the ones chosen for clarity. The energy that others waste in pursuit of desire, you are being asked to save and to shape. That energy, when not used for lust, becomes focus. It becomes creativity. It becomes devotion. There are moments in life when a person feels an unexplained absence of desire. The body feels alive, but the urge that drives most of humanity seems distant or even dead. You look at others and see them driven by passion, by longing, by the pull of pleasure, and you start to wonder why your own flame has been dimmed. You begin to question your worth, your faith, your balance as a human being. But what if this silence within you is not emptiness? What if it is divine training? What if the withholding of desire is not a punishment, but a hidden blessing in disguise? When God withholds desire, He is not taking something from you. He is giving you an opportunity to see what exists beyond the noise of impulse. Most people live enslaved by their wants. Their emotions rise and fall according to how often they can satisfy them. But those who are chosen for deeper awareness are taught differently. They are pulled away from constant craving so they can discover a higher kind of power, a quieter strength that does not depend on fulfillment, but on mastery. Discipline is born not when everything goes your way, but when your will must stand against what your body wants. And when the desire that usually commands your mind goes silent, something profound begins to form inside you. You start to see how much of life is wasted chasing sensations that never last. You start to understand how the strongest energy within a person can either destroy or create, depending on how it is used. The absence of sexual desire is not weakness. It is the beginning of purification. In that stillness, the energy that would normally be directed outward starts to flow inward. It gathers in the core of your being, and from that stillness, a new awareness grows. You begin to realize that you are not your desires. You are the one who observes them. You are the one who decides whether they rise or fall. There is wisdom in every hunger, but even greater wisdom in every hunger denied. God starves His chosen ones so they can taste the truth that most people never reach. The truth that real freedom does not come from constant satisfaction, but from control. When you are able to stand still in the presence of desire and not be moved by it, you have discovered mastery. You have found the strength that separates seekers from the chosen. In this process, many will feel alone. They will question their normalcy. They will think something is wrong with them. But the divine does not make mistakes. He knows which souls need to be shaped through fire and which through silence. Those who are starved of desire are not broken. They are being rebuilt with a different kind of strength. It is a quiet construction, unseen by the world, but deeply powerful within. This starvation is a test of endurance and faith. It teaches you to find satisfaction in peace, to draw strength from calm, to discover purpose in patience. While others are led by craving, you are guided by clarity. You start to see life from a different height. You understand that not every hunger needs to be fed, not every emptiness needs to be filled. Some spaces are meant to remain sacred. Through this divine withholding, you also learn gratitude. You realize that the energy that once tried to control you is now under your command. you begin to use it with awareness. You can channel it into creativity, into service, into stillness. You can pour it into your craft, your calling, your connection to the divine. This is the transformation God prepares you for, to move from being driven by desire to being guided by purpose. There will be times when the old longing returns, when you feel the pull again. But you will notice that it no longer controls you. It no longer burns you. It becomes something you can hold without trembling. And in that moment, you will see how far you have come. You will understand that the silence you once feared was actually your making. When God starves his chosen ones of desire, he is not closing a door. He is opening an inner gate. A gate that leads to power, clarity, and control. He is training the soul to see beyond the body, to use energy rather than be used by it. The world may not understand this path, but those who walk it will know that in the absence of desire lies the presence of divine strength. Because when the body grows quiet, the spirit begins to speak. There comes a moment in a person's journey when everything they once felt familiar with begins to fade. The spark that once moved their heart, the passion that once guided their actions, slowly disappears. It feels like a loss, like a door has been closed on something deeply human. You start to wonder if God has forgotten you, if perhaps something within you has gone wrong. But what feels like rejection is often the beginning of redirection. What feels like a drought of emotion is, in truth, a divine shift in purpose. When God takes away a desire that once burned inside you, he is not casting you aside. He is guiding you towards something far more meaningful than temporary satisfaction. Most people spend their entire lives chasing sensations that come and go, believing that pleasure is proof of life. But the divine calls a few away from this endless chase. He takes away the craving not to punish, but to purify. He removes the noise so you can hear the silence, and in that silence, you begin to recognize his voice. You see, desire is not always the enemy, but it is often the distraction. It pulls the mind outward. It attaches the heart to things that fade. When you are full of desire, you are driven by what you want. But when desire is taken away, you are driven by what you are meant for. That is the difference between living by impulse and living by intention. God does not want his chosen ones to waste their sacred energy chasing illusions. He wants them to discover what it means to be truly alive, not merely stimulated. The absence of desire is uncomfortable because it strips away the illusions that used to give us comfort. The mind begins to panic when it can no longer hide behind emotion or attraction. But this discomfort is divine surgery. It is the soul being realigned with truth. You begin to notice that what once fascinated you no longer holds the same power. What once defined your worth no longer controls you. You are being freed from dependence, from needing something outside yourself to feel complete. Redirection is not easy because it breaks attachment. But every great transformation begins with a loss that turns into liberation. God starves the chosen ones of certain pleasures so that they can taste a higher joy. One that is not born from the body but from the soul. This is how the divine works. He removes what you think you need so you can discover what you truly are. There is a reason why your heart feels empty during this process. That emptiness is not a void, it is space being cleared for purpose. When the desires fade, space is made. And in that space, clarity begins to rise. You start to see what your energy was meant for all along. You realize that your strength, your creativity, your peace were never meant to be trapped in the cycle of seeking satisfaction. They were meant to serve something eternal. It is in this season of divine starvation that your awareness matures. You begin to notice the stillness behind your emotions, the silence behind your thoughts. You stop asking, "Why do I feel nothing?" and start understanding, "What am I being prepared for?" The divine does not take away unless he plans to replace it with something greater. Your old desires may have made you human, but your new purpose will make you whole. Every redirection begins with confusion. You may not understand the reason now, but time reveals what silence hides. The loss of desire might separate you from the world, but it will connect you more deeply to your essence. It will teach you to see beauty without needing to possess it, to love without craving, to move without being moved by temptation. This is where divine strength begins. When you learn to walk without depending on the wind that once carried you. Those who are being redirected often feel forgotten, but they are the most watched. They are being shaped quietly, molded gently, guided toward clarity. Their hunger has not been erased, it has been transformed. It becomes hunger for truth, for stillness, for peace that does not fade. This is the real purpose behind divine redirection. To show you that your worth does not depend on what you desire, but on what you become in the absence of it. So when the fire of passion leaves you, do not mistake it for emptiness. It is an invitation to rise above the body's whispers and hear the language of your soul. God has not turned away from you. He is turning you toward yourself, toward your calling, toward a peace that desire could never give. And in time, you will understand that what once felt like rejection was the most merciful form of redirection. There comes a stage when the divine begins to strip away everything that weakens your spirit. One of the first things he touches is desire, because it is one of the most powerful forces inside a human being. It can build or it can destroy. It can guide a person toward purpose or drown them in distraction. When God starves his chosen ones of this hunger, it is never to humiliate them. It is to teach them mastery. He is not punishing you for your human nature. He is showing you how to transform that nature into power. Every human carries within them a sacred energy. It is the same energy that drives creation, movement, love, and ambition. But for most people, that energy is scattered and uncontrolled. They waste it chasing fleeting moments of pleasure that give no lasting peace. When you are chosen for something greater, God does not allow you to waste this energy. He withholds your desire so that you can learn to hold it, contain it, refine it. He turns the fire inward so that it begins to illuminate rather than consume. It is easy to live when your desires are met, but real growth begins when your desires are restrained. When you no longer have what you crave, you are forced to meet yourself beyond the craving. You begin to see how restless the human mind can be, always chasing, never content. The divine withholding exposes this restlessness not to shame you, but to free you. You start to see that most of your suffering was not because of the absence of pleasure, but because of the dependency on it. Through divine starvation, the soul begins to refine its focus. You start to see the difference between raw desire and sacred energy. Desire burns outward and fades quickly. Sacred energy burns inward and builds endurance. When that energy is directed toward higher purpose, toward service, creativity, discipline, or devotion, it begins to purify your thoughts, your emotions, your actions. What once made you weak begins to make you strong. The same force that once ruled you now obeys you. This process is not easy because the body does not understand the silence that follows the withdrawal of desire. It becomes restless, it resists. But this resistance is where the transformation happens. Every time you control what once controlled you, you create strength. Every time you resist an old impulse, you grow a new kind of peace. This is how mastery is built, not through indulgence, but through inner command. When God starves the chosen ones, he is teaching them to redirect rather than repress. Suppression creates tension, but redirection creates power. The goal is not to kill your desire but to transform it. The same fire that once sought pleasure can now fuel creativity, vision, and divine understanding. This is the sacred alchemy of self-control. You do not lose your energy, you elevate it. You learn to use it consciously. And once you begin to experience this transformation, you start to see the hidden wisdom behind it. You realize that the divine was never trying to take something from you, but trying to give you something better. The strength to command your own nature. You understand that the greatest battle a person can win is not against others, but against the part of themselves that clings to comfort. Those who walk this path may feel isolated, but they are never abandoned. They are being trained quietly in the art of inner mastery. While the world is busy satisfying its impulses, they are learning how to channel them into something eternal. Their silence becomes strength. Their restraint becomes clarity. They begin to see that every act of self-control creates more freedom, not less. Eventually, this disciplined energy begins to show in every part of life. You become calmer in chaos. You become grounded in temptation. You no longer move from impulse, you move from purpose. And that is what the divine wanted from the beginning, to make you unshakable. When you master your energy, you stop being a servant to your senses. You no longer chase what fades, you cultivate what lasts. The divine trusts those who can hold their power without losing themselves in it. That is why he starves his chosen ones, not to weaken them, but to teach them how to turn their hunger into harmony. And when that lesson is complete, you realize that control is not the absence of desire. It is the awakening of true power. There comes a moment in life when the flame that once burned so fiercely inside begins to quiet down. The body that once demanded, the mind that once wandered in search of satisfaction starts to lose its old rhythm. And in that silence, confusion often takes root. You begin to wonder if something within you has died. You question your aliveness, your humanity, your balance. But what you are experiencing is not death, it is transformation. You are being led to understand a deeper form of strength, the kind that does not come from indulgence, but from control. True strength is not built through the satisfaction of every impulse. It is born when you are capable of feeling the full force of desire, yet remain unmoved by it. When God starves his chosen ones of passion, he is not taking away their power. He is teaching them how to own it. The divine does not want you to live without fire. He wants you to master the fire so it burns where it should. Inside your purpose, not your distractions. Control is often misunderstood. People think it means suppression, but it is not about killing your emotions or denying your nature. Control is awareness. It is the ability to feel everything deeply and still choose your direction with clarity. It is standing in the middle of temptation, of noise, of chaos, and remaining grounded. When God withholds desire, he is training you for this level of control. He is building a strength that does not depend on the world behaving as you wish it to. This training is not gentle. It strips away comfort and exposes dependency. It reveals how much of our happiness was attached to satisfaction. But once that illusion begins to fall apart, you find something unshakable underneath. You begin to realize that peace is not what happens when life gives you what you want. Peace is what remains when you no longer need it. And this is what divine discipline teaches. The art of contentment without craving. Every soul that is chosen for higher purpose must first be purified of lower attachment. You cannot walk in clarity while being chained to impulse. You cannot serve truth while being enslaved by desire. So the divine starves you not to weaken, but to sharpen. He removes the noise of longing so that the melody of stillness can be heard. In that stillness, you start to see who you really are, not the seeker of pleasure, but the observer of it. When control becomes natural peace, your whole way of seeing life changes. You no longer measure your worth by your ability to attract or satisfy. You stop seeing yourself through the lens of the world's expectations. You begin to understand that real beauty, real power, real value are not expressed through passion, but through presence. A person at peace with their own silence carries an energy that words cannot describe. It is calm yet unbreakable, gentle yet commanding. And this is what the divine builds in his chosen ones. the strength to be still, the kind of strength that does not need to prove itself through action, attraction, or expression, the kind that simply exists, steady and serene, untouched by the chaos of craving. When you reach this point, the body obeys the soul. The mind serves awareness. Desire no longer pulls you, it bows to you. In that state, love becomes purer. Connection becomes deeper. Because you are no longer seeking others to fill your emptiness. You are meeting them from fullness. What you give is no longer a cry for attention, but a reflection of peace. This is the quiet power that only divine starvation can create. The transformation of restlessness into radiance. Those who have never been starved by the divine may never understand this serenity. They may mistake calmness for coldness, discipline for denial. But those who have walked through the emptiness know that what lies on the other side of control is not emptiness at all. It is vastness. It is the freedom to move through life untouched by its constant pull. So when the flame of desire fades, do not fear the silence that follows. That silence is the sound of your spirit taking the lead. It is the moment when the heart finally learns to beat in rhythm with peace. The divine has not taken your strength, he has revealed it. Because real strength begins the moment control becomes your natural state of peace. There are times in life when everything inside feels still. No spark, no hunger, no burning longing for anything or anyone. It is as if the pulse that once connected you to the fire of living has gone quiet. And in that silence, doubt begins to whisper. You start to wonder if you have become numb, if something has gone wrong with your spirit. But what you are feeling is not absence. It is the sacred work of refinement. The divine often hides power inside emptiness, for it is in emptiness that clarity begins to grow. When God starves his chosen ones of desire, he is not erasing their fire, he is purifying it. The process feels like loss because it removes what once gave you energy and direction. You may feel cut off from life, but in truth, you are being led deeper into it. The purpose of this divine silence is not to punish you, but to prepare you. It is in emptiness that the divine reshapes your hunger into something higher, something that no pleasure of the body could ever fulfill. We often equate fullness with joy, believing that having more, feeling more, and experiencing more is proof of aliveness. Yet fullness without awareness leads to confusion. It makes you chase one satisfaction after another without ever feeling whole. Emptiness, on the other hand, looks painful but carries a hidden gift. It forces you to stop reaching outward and to begin listening inward. When the outer noise dies, the inner voice becomes clear. That is where purpose begins to form, quietly, patiently, without rush. This emptiness you feel is the divine classroom. Every silence, every moment of dullness, every space that feels hollow is a lesson in disguise. God removes the distraction of desire, so you can discover the strength of stillness. The same energy that once pulled you toward pleasure now begins to build your awareness. You start to see how easily the world traps people in cycles of craving, how much power is lost in the endless chase for satisfaction. And in that seeing, your consciousness sharpens. The soul is refined not in moments of excitement, but in moments of stillness. When you can stay calm in the absence of stimulation, you begin to experience the depth of your being. The silence no longer feels like a void. It becomes sacred space. You realize that you do not need to constantly feel pleasure to feel alive. You simply need to be present. This understanding is what transforms emptiness into enlightenment. What feels like starvation is actually alignment. The divine is aligning your energy with your true nature. You are being taught that joy does not depend on touch, sound, or sensation. It is born from presence, from the awareness that nothing external defines your worth. The emptiness you fear becomes the soil where inner peace begins to grow. It is in this space that your thoughts slow down, your heart softens, and your energy returns to its pure form. The divine often empties before he fills. A vessel overflowing with distractions cannot receive wisdom. So he empties you of desire, of craving, of attachment, until there is nothing left but awareness itself. In that awareness, you begin to see that what you lost was never truly yours. It was borrowed energy, moving through you without direction. Now, it returns to its source. It becomes calm-centered and ready to serve a higher calling. This transformation is quiet. No one around you may notice it happening. The world celebrates intensity, not silence. But the ones who have walked through divine emptiness know its worth. They understand that silence is not weakness. It is the mark of those who have met themselves. In the absence of pleasure, they discovered power. In the loss of craving, they found clarity. The peace that arises from this process is not temporary. It does not depend on circumstance. It stays like a steady flame untouched by wind. You begin to carry a calm strength that others can feel but cannot name. You no longer need to chase anything to feel whole, because the wholeness you sought was within you all along. So if you find yourself in a season of emptiness, do not rush to fill it. Sit with it. Let it refine you. Let it teach you what true fullness feels like. The fullness of being rather than having, of knowing rather than needing. This is how the divine shapes his chosen ones. Because what feels like emptiness today is only sacred preparation for the wisdom that tomorrow will bring. There are souls chosen for paths that others cannot understand. They are set apart, not because they are better, but because they are being prepared for something deeper. When God starves these souls of worldly pleasures, especially of sexual desire, it is not because he wants them to live without feeling. It is because he wants them to learn how to direct their energy towards something sacred. Those denied worldly pleasure are not deprived. They are being entrusted with divine power. To most people, desire feels like life itself. It is the pulse that drives their choices, the spark that keeps their hearts alive. They chase it, feed it, glorify it. But those whom the divine chooses for higher purpose are guided differently. Their desires are silenced, so that a greater energy can awaken within. What others express outwardly through passion, they are taught to channel inwardly through focus, purpose, and stillness. When the flame of desire is withheld, the fire does not die. It changes form. It becomes subtler, more refined, more powerful. It begins to move through the inner channels of the soul instead of being wasted on temporary pleasure. This redirection of energy is sacred alchemy. It transforms the restless force of craving into clarity, creativity, and strength. While others are moved by their urges, the chosen ones learn to move their energy consciously, with awareness. This process is not easy. It feels unnatural at first. The body remembers the old rhythm, the old cravings. The mind questions, the heart resists. You may feel incomplete or left behind while others seem to live freely. But what you are being taught is freedom of a different kind. Freedom from need, not freedom to indulge. The divine knows that those who can master their energy can master their destiny. This is why he withholds from you what others freely enjoy, not to punish you, but to train you. The denial of worldly pleasure forces your energy to rise. It begins to move upward from the body into the mind and spirit. What was once physical becomes mental. What was once mental becomes spiritual. You start to see life with new depth. The same energy that once pulled you downward into indulgence now lifts you upward into understanding. You begin to sense that what you lost in pleasure, you gained in perception. This is the way divine power is born, not through abundance of experience, but through mastery of energy. When you are no longer enslaved by your desires, your energy becomes available for higher purpose. You can now create, heal, teach, and lead without being drained. You become a vessel of focus rather than a creature of craving. And because your energy is pure, your presence becomes powerful. Others may not understand it, but they feel it. It is calm, controlled, and deeply alive. Those who have never walked this path will look at you and think you are missing something. But they do not see what you have gained: awareness, stability, and an unshakable peace. When the divine chooses someone to carry spiritual power, he first tests their ability to hold it. If you cannot master your own energy, how can you guide or uplift others? This is why starvation comes before revelation, emptiness before enlightenment. The divine is preparing you to carry strength without letting it consume you. Through this sacred restraint, you learn a profound truth. Energy is not lost when pleasure is denied, it is transformed. Every moment you resist an impulse, you store power. Every temptation you transcend becomes a source of light. This light gathers quietly within you until it begins to shape your very being. It sharpens your perception, strengthens your will, and deepens your peace. You begin to embody the very qualities the divine seeks in his chosen: awareness, patience, and balance. In this way, those denied worldly pleasure become channels of divine force. Their hearts beat not for possession but for purpose. Their strength is silent yet unmistakable. They walk through life untouched by the chaos that consumes others, because their energy is no longer scattered. It is whole, contained, directed. What once felt like loss reveals itself as power. You begin to see that your hunger was never taken away, it was elevated. You are no longer a servant of your desire, you are its master. And in mastering it, you awaken the divine within you. Because those denied worldly pleasure are not forgotten. They are chosen to carry the fire of heaven in silence. There is a point in the journey of the chosen where silence begins to speak louder than desire. The noise of longing fades, and in its place arises something more powerful: awareness. This transformation is not sudden, it comes slowly, like the soft unveiling of dawn after a long night. At first, it feels like a loss. You sense the absence of passion, the quietness of craving, and it confuses you. You wonder why your heart no longer burns the way it once did. But over time, you realize that what has been taken from you is not your fire, but your dependence on it. You are being taught how to master the flame, not be consumed by it. When desire weakens, silence begins to strengthen. The energy that once surged outward now turns inward. It starts to collect at the center of your being. This gathering of energy feels like stillness, but it is not lifeless. It is potential waiting for direction. God starves his chosen ones of certain impulses so that they may learn the true use of energy. Desire is not evil, but when uncontrolled, it blinds. When refined, it enlightens. What you are learning in silence is how to turn fire into focus, how to transform passion into power. Every time you resist an old urge, you reclaim a piece of your strength. The energy that would have been lost in temporary pleasure now remains within you, building like an unseen reservoir. You may not notice it day by day, but something deep inside is stabilizing. Your mind becomes clearer. Your emotions become quieter. You stop moving through life from instinct and start moving from awareness. This is the beginning of inner mastery. When the silence inside becomes more powerful than the noise outside. The world often praises expression and hunger, but few understand the power of restraint. Resisting desire does not make you lifeless. It makes you luminous. It teaches you how to feel deeply without being ruled by what you feel. In the space where you once acted from impulse, wisdom begins to grow. The stillness you carry becomes a reflection of control. You are no longer chasing sensations, you are creating presence. This journey transforms you from a seeker of fulfillment into a keeper of peace. The same energy that once demanded satisfaction now becomes the foundation of serenity. When you resist, you are not denying your humanity. You are refining it. You are learning that true strength is not found in constant motion, but in conscious stillness. The more you practice restraint, the more your silence begins to radiate authority. It is the kind of strength that does not need to announce itself. It simply exists, steady and calm, like a mountain unmoved by wind. Resisting desire also teaches you humility. It reminds you that you are not the master of divine timing. When you stop chasing what you cannot control, you begin to trust the rhythm of the universe. You understand that if something is meant to awaken within you, it will do so naturally, without force. This trust replaces fear. It allows you to walk through life with lightness instead of longing. The silence that once felt heavy becomes your comfort. As this discipline deepens, your relationship with energy changes. You no longer see desire as an enemy, but as a teacher. It shows you where your attention lies. It reveals what still controls you and what you have already transcended. Every moment of temptation becomes a mirror reflecting your growth. You begin to notice that silence is not emptiness. It is intelligence. It is awareness shaping itself into strength. The beauty of this stage is subtle. The world may not see it, but it will feel it through you. People will notice something different, a quiet confidence, a depth in your gaze, a calm that cannot be disturbed. That is the result of energy transformed through resistance. It is not the silence of suppression, but of mastery. It is the peace that comes from no longer needing to prove, chase, or possess. Those who reach this level of awareness carry within them the essence of divine control. They walk through the world without leaving ripples of restlessness. Their presence soothes rather than stirs. They have learned that the most powerful sound is silence, and the most powerful energy is restraint. What was once desire now breathes as devotion. What was once hunger now lives as harmony. And when this truth settles within you, you will understand that resisting desire was never about denial. It was always about discovery. The discovery of the divine strength that lives within silence. When God starves his chosen ones of desire, it is never cruelty. It is careful crafting. Through silence, through restraint, through emptiness, he shapes strength. What feels like loss is the slow birth of mastery. What seems like isolation is divine preparation. Every withheld longing refines the soul. Every unanswered craving polishes awareness. You begin to see that peace is not found in having more, but in needing less. This entire journey is not about denial, but transformation. The same energy that once ruled you becomes your servant. The same hunger that once distracted you becomes your power. You walk lighter, stand calmer, and live with a quiet certainty that the divine trusts you with his deepest lessons. So if you find yourself in this sacred silence, do not fear it. Sit with it. Grow within it. Because the ones who learn to live without being driven by desire are the ones who eventually lead with wisdom and grace. May your silence become strength, your discipline become peace, and your journey lead you toward the light that never fades. Good luck on your path. And thank you for walking this way with openness and courage.